Balancing liberty and order. Acharei Kedoshim 5781. There's always a tension in society, particularly in a free society, between balancing liberty on one hand and order on the other. We see this tension play out in Sefer Shmuel, the book of Samuel. The people come to Shmuel, Samuel, who's the Navi, the prophet, and they say, give us a king, appoint a king to rule over us. Why do they want a king? They want a king because they're a loose federation of 12 tribes who is not able to defend themselves because they don't have a stable, centralized structure. They're constantly being overrun and subjugated by the Canaanites, the Moabites, the Midianites, and the Philistines. They want a king who's going to be able to organize them so they have a strong central army so they'll be able to defend themselves. In fact, Sefer Shofti in the book of Judges, which leads into Shmuel, Sefer Shmuel, has this refrain: Vayamim hahem, ein melech b'Yisrael, ish hayashar be'anav ya'aseh. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Every man did what was right in his own eyes. Towards the end of Shoftim of Judges, we read about this horrendous gang rape by a concubine at the hands of members of the tribe of Benjamin. In retaliation, the other tribes almost completely wiped out the tribe of Benjamin. The matzav, the situation, in a word, was anarchy. Nascent America found itself in a similar situation. Shays' revolt of 1786 showed just how insufficient the Articles of Confederation were, showed that a stronger government was needed in order to provide order. Now, this tension between liberty and order plays out right before our eyes as we read the Torah. 2 weeks ago, we read about the execution of Nadav and Avihu, Aharon or Aaron's eldest two sons, at the hand of God because they brought an unauthorized offering. This week, we read the pasuk, Ish imo va'aviv tira'u ve'et Shabbatai tishmeru. A man shall be in awe of his mother and his father, and you shall keep my Sabbaths. These two sections, Nadav and Avihu on one hand, and the pasuk talking about holding your parents in awe and keeping Shabbat, actually bookend each other. How is that so? The passage about Nadav and Avihu is a warning against anarchy. The Sifra, a midrash, says that Nadav and Avihu didn't simply bring the offering because they were excited to bring the offering. They were actually trying to usurp their father, Aharon Aaron, as a Kohen Hagadol. According to the midrash, Nadav said to Avihu, can't wait till these two old guys, that's Aharon and Moshe, kick the bucket. They're out of the way so we can be the leaders of the people. They're trying to supplant their father even as he's still alive as the Kohen Hagadol, the high priest. So God responds as he does, and it certainly seems like a very over-the-top response for the offense. But the message God is giving us is a community needs stability. It needs leadership. We don't want to have a society that turns into a banana republic where every other day there's a coup. In fact, the northern kingdom of Israel, the 12 tribes, eventually fell because of that. There was no strong leadership, and eventually they simply weren't able to defend themselves. The southern kingdom of Yehuda, of Judah, on the other hand, historically survived because of the stability the Davidic dynasty provided it. Let's now fast forward to the year 1835. A Frenchman, Alexis de Tocqueville, was visiting America. In Democracy in America, he wrote that one of the things that will help America to succeed is religion. Now, that's a strange thing to say about a society that prides itself on having a strong separation between church and state. But what he was saying is religion provides a free society with stability that a government can't. Government in a free society is very limited in mandating values. Religion, which people voluntarily choose to practice in America, provides people with values. Those values help to create order and stability. The Torah, right from the beginning, is cognizant of the need to balance liberty and order. The Mabul, the flood story, is a polemic against anarchy. The world was full of Hamas, violence, robbery, as Rashi understands it. That world was not allowed to continue. Likewise, the execution of Nadav and Avihu at the hand of God is a subtle polemic to Bnei Israel, telling the fledgling nation that they need to have order. They cannot fall into a situation of anarchy where this one is pushing that one aside so he can bring his offering first while he's attempting to replace the other guy as the new leader. It's not going to work. However, the Torah also makes the other point as well in Migdal Bavel, the story of the Tower of Babylon. It's the other side of the coin, a polemic against tyranny. We're told, "V'chi chol haaretz va'achad u'verim achadim." The entire world was united in one language and one purpose. Now, anyone who's ever been to a board meeting knows how difficult it is to get even a few people to agree on anything. Suddenly, Nimrod, the king, comes along. He's able to get the entire world on the same page. Everybody is in total agreement. How can this be? But Netziv tells us by forcing conformity, oppression, no diversity. It's my way or the highway. Of course, this undermines the teaching in the Mishnah Sanhedrin, which teaches all men are stamped with the seal of Adam Harishon, yet no two are alike. That is, all of humanity is created in the image of God, but distinctively created in the image of God. That is, there are limits to conformity and order, which is the byproduct of conformity. So now in Kedoshim, the Torah comes along and teaches, Ishimo va'aviv tira'u ve'et Shabbatai tishmeru. A man shall be in awe of his mother and his father, and you shall keep my Sabbaths. The Talmud in Yavamo points out that it's no accident that first we're commanded to be in awe of our parents, and then we're commanded to keep Shabbat. What it's really saying is the parents are commanded to keep Shabbat, and their children are commanded to keep Shabbat. So therefore, a parent cannot order his or her child to transgress Shabbat. Even though there's a mitzvah to be in awe of you, you can't tell your child to violate God's will. And by the way, if the parents do, the child is commanded to disobey. Shabbat, we see, is the great equalizer. What do I mean by that? We're being told it's not enough to rest on Shabbat. We've heard you had to let your servants rest. And now we're being told you have to let your children rest as well. Your servants and your children are also created B'Tselem Elohim in the image of God. And yes, as parents, you have authority over them, but it's not absolute. They're not your property. They too are God's children. And you could see the groundwork being laid for child labor laws. Ultimately, the child is God's child. You cannot simply do with them as you wish. So yes, of course, the job of a parent is to provide structure and order, but that authority is not unlimited. And that tension between liberty and order continues today. We need police, no doubt about it. But the conviction of Chauvin reminds us the authority of police is not unlimited. So we see that the Torah is talking to us today, and its messages are still very relevant.